In the garage today we have a 2002 Dodge Dakota. It's here for front brakes. And guys, it's really early into 2022, just a few days, and we already have our first victim. Look at that, isn't that crazy? That's absolutely nuts. So let me go ahead and knock this out. The owner dropped off new rotors for up front, obviously, as well as a new set of pads. Man, the rust on this thing is absolutely crazy. That's pretty bad, guys. This is the true definition of a work truck, and don't put any money into it besides what it absolutely essential, you know what I mean? And it's freaking cold out here, guys. It's middle of winter. You see there's ice all over the ground, and this thing barely fits in my garage. I got the front bumper just like 2 inches away from my workbench over there, and look at the rear bumper. It's barely gonna clear my garage door. So and this is why I don't accept trucks like this during the winter, because if it doesn't fit in my garage, I'm not going to work on it. And this is already pushing it, you know, because technically I don't even have space to get around to the other side of this truck. If I want to get on the other side, I have to open the garage door, which defeats the whole purpose of my heater running. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it off right now, because yeah, I'm just going to have to deal with the cold. Well, I might as well just pull it halfway out the garage, and at least I have space to walk around in front of the truck. If the garage door is going to stay open, there's no reason for keeping it all the way inside the garage. You know what's in 2022 just started. Let's go ahead and start keeping track of all the cars that come in with grinding brakes. So that's the first one of the year. I wonder how many we're going to have by the end of 2022. This would be interesting. Any guesses? With everything off of the car, we get a better look at the pads. So this is the one that was on the outboard side, or the outside. It was the inboard pad. And of course, a better look at the rotor itself. And I was able to peel off this whole lip right here. So this is what's remaining of the outer face of the rotor. Just this tiny little lip. That's crazy. The whole thing just peeled right off. It's a good way to start the year, huh? So looking at the parts, it looks like we have the correct parts so far. The pistons on the calipers were on the caliper was like almost fully extended, but I did get them to go in with not too much of a fight, so that went pretty well. Caliper's not leaking at all, so everything looks good here. As you can see, I'm just about done on this side. Everything looks great. Surprisingly, the slide pins were not seized in place, and they came out just fine. So I cleaned them off, re-greased them, and they both move absolutely fine. Unfortunately, we did not get new hardware kit inside of the box for the brake pads, so I was forced to reuse the old hardware kit. It is what it is. The pads still move freely, so that's not an issue right now. It just would have been nice. As far as what caused that outboard pad to wear down like that, I have no idea. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if someone who installed the brakes last didn't do a good job and the outside pad was binding or something. I have no idea. I don't think it's wheel bearing, because when I lifted up the truck, I didn't feel any wheel bearing play. And also, whenever the wheel bearing is loose, it tends to chew up the inboard side of the rotor, because how the rotor would kick out like that with a bad wheel bearing. So that's not the case. Honestly, I don't care, or to know why it chewed up that outboard pad. The point is, it's fixed now. So let's go ahead and knock out the other side. One more thing, in case you're wondering, this is what the thickness of the rotor should look like. So this is effectively like double the thickness of the one that came off. That's crazy how chewed up that thing was. And this is one of those situations where nobody can dare to say, oh, the noise just started. There's no way in hell that noise just started. What do you mean it's just started? 8 months ago? What are you talking about? So I'm all done with this Dodge. I've had the truck running for a few minutes while I move other cars around. I figure I'll get into a nice warm truck, only to realize the blower motor on this piece of crap doesn't work. Why do I get all the shit cars? Oh, it's so frustrating. Honestly, guys, I would have turned this job down had I known it wasn't going to fit in my garage. I don't know what I was thinking when the guy called me. Like, anything that doesn't fit in the garage where I can't close this door during winter, I am denying the job. But the guy was already here. He already had the parts, so too late to go back, right? Anyway, let's take it out for a test drive. Make sure the brakes are nice and dandy, and this thing will be on its way. So the brakes on this truck feel great. Everything's nice and smooth, no weird noises or anything. So this thing's pretty much set to go. Let me get out of this turd because I'm absolutely freezing inside of this truck. I don't know how people drive around like this. It's just, I'm ready to get frostbite inside this damn thing. So that'll be it for this one. We got a 2001 Toyota Avalon. It's here because it has no brakes, as in no pedal at all. The owner said the pedal went all the way to the floor, and he could see a bunch of fluid dripping right here near this wheel. And looking at the inside of his rim, you could already see how the brake fluid is just eating up the paint. In all fairness, this might just be like plasti dip or something, so it's just eating right through it, of course. All right, so here's a closer look at this, and guys, it really looks like it's just the caliper itself leaking. Now, I don't think it has anything to do with the actual brakes, because you can probably tell that the rotor looks relatively new, and I'm sure the pads are still in decent condition because I did the brakes on this car not too long ago. So it has new pads and rotors back here. It's only been a few months. It's just a caliper that looks like it's failed. As you can see, it's not coming from the brake hose. All that looks fine right there. It's just dripping off the bottom of the caliper. So yeah, that caliper has failed. And thank God, because I was not in a mood to start replacing any brake lines in winter. It absolutely sucks. Why does it seem like once it starts snowing and blizzards come and everything, that's when everyone starts having the damn problems like this, like the jobs you don't want to do. So it's a few days later and we got a new caliper in stock. So let's go ahead and rip the old one off and put the new one on. Look at this mess of salt everywhere. So I'm all done here. You can see the new caliper is installed. I took off the brake pads, cleaned them up with brake parts cleaner, as well as the rotor. Took it off, cleaned both sides of the faces. And everything's looking pretty good. I already bled the system, got in the car, turned it on, and held like good firm pedal pressure for at least 30 seconds. And I put a piece of cardboard down here to see if there's any leaks. And as you can see, no drips at all. Everything's looking really good. After you hold good firm pedal pressure for a little while with a dry finger, come back here and check all your connections. Make sure they're not wet, because sometimes you won't see a drip, but it is starting to seep if it's not torqued down properly. And as you can see, my glove is dry and it's still coming out dry, even though I'm checking the bottom of these connections. So it's just a good practice, because sometimes you could get a good pedal, even though there's a slight seepage coming from one of your connections. You could still get a good pedal and think that the car is fine, but it's really not fine. Really important to check. Alright, now settle down. I know what you're thinking. No, this had nothing to do with me. Basically, the owner went to church, and when he came out, his car was wrecked, so it was just a hit and run. Maybe the person that hit him put his hands up in the air and said, "Jesus, take the wheel." I had to pull out the snowblower, and of course it's running like crap. Honestly, it's been running like crap since last year, and I never bothered to look into it. And of course, you always have to look into it when you need it, right? So anyway, I decided to pull out the spark plug. It was looks like it was running rich. The spark plug was really dark. So I'm like, you know what, I'll try to clean it up and reinstall it. And I just torqued it down, and I was ready to put the spark plug wire back on it. And then I noticed something. What do you guys see on that spark plug? The ceramic is cracked. And I'm telling you one thing, this thing runs like crap, okay? It's just constantly looking for its idle, just sputtering, and then randomly shuts off. And sometimes I could get 5-minute runtime, sometimes I get 30 seconds. But that's not good. That is not contributing. Even if it's not the main problem, that is a problem right there. The spark doesn't always make it inside the cylinder, so I need a new spark plug. As you can see, I got a AC Delco replacement, and the one I pulled out, which says torch on it, it actually has 2 cracks on it. There is one right there. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then there's another one on the backside. So 2 cracks on 1 spark plug. That's not good. Let's go ahead and install the new one, see if it runs any better. We got a 2005 Grand Cherokee in the garage. It's here because the lady said there's a noise coming from her wheels. So on her way over here, guess what? The wheel went a different direction from the car. So yeah, no one got hurt or nothing got damaged or anything besides the car taking a few bumps and scratches. You could see the inside of the rim right here how once the studs let loose, some of them are actually broken off. It was just riding on the bottom of the rotor until the wheel just went in a different direction. So I'm in the middle of replacing the wheel bearing. You can see that stud's broken, that stud's broken, and the other three, the threads are all mangled up. So I got it off. Came off with a pretty good fight. But let me go ahead and clean up the surface right here, get rid of all this corrosion, and we'll fit the new wheel bearing. These brake pads are very low, and look at the rotor on this thing. So of course I told the owner a while ago that this thing needed brakes, but hey, I guess whatever fails, that's what you fix, right? And don't worry, I did get new lug nuts for it also. So that's about it. Cleaned up the hub real nice. The new wheel bearing just slid right in place, no issues at all, and everything has been torqued down. I got thread locker on the bolts, and that's pretty much it. As you can see, I sprayed the face of the new wheel bearing with some CRC. I still have to put the axle nut on and torque that down, but this thing's pretty much ready to go. So let me go ahead and wrap everything up. So I'm just about ready to put the wheel on, but I noticed that where the lug nuts go, some of these aren't completely round anymore. Some of them are just oblong, and that's not good. See that one? This one's pretty much the same way. And before all of this happened, maybe like 2 or 3 days before, the woman did tell me that she was starting to hear a noise from her car. So I told her, well, bring it in. I'll check it out, see what's going on with it. But of course, oh, I got things to do. I can't make it today. Can I do it some other day? Of course, they keep pushing it off, and it turns into a mess like this. Of course, I'm going to put it on. I have no option. We got new lug nuts for it. I'll torque everything out properly. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and check every single wheel on this car. And since we have 3 extra lug nuts, I'm going to go ahead and install some that this car didn't even have. So this one did have one. The tow truck driver took it off. He took one off of this wheel and one off of the rear right wheel in order to put that wheel back on the car, which is, you know, not the worst idea. But as you can see, this one is missing a lug nut, and the same thing on the other side, it's missing a lug nut. So we're going to use the new ones to replace the ones that are missing. I don't know what else I could do for this car. So hopefully everything turns out well and she doesn't have an issue like this anymore. As you can see, we got the wheel on, new lug nuts on, everything is torqued down. I went around the entire car checking everything. Now this is the only stud that does not have a lug nut because the threads on it are just too mangled up. You can't get a lug nut started on it, so that's that. But this is what it takes to tighten the lug nuts on this car. 19 mil, 21 mil, 19.5 mil, and on this side 18.5 mil. Because this car has different lug nuts all the way around it, and some of them that are 19s that are missing the caps, it's going to be 18.5, and the 19s that are swollen, 19.5. It's a freaking mess. You need 3-4 different sockets to do the lug nuts on this car. What a freaking nightmare. Has anybody ever had this issue? Yep. Damn ice on the ground. I've got this 02 Jeep Grand Cherokee here. It got dropped off for a smoke test because they have a evap code. So the code we have is a P0441. Hopefully you guys can see that. Evap purge flow monitor. All right, so I figured, you know what, let me locate the purge valve and then we'll go from there. And it's right here, okay? Very simple. So I'm looking at what line goes in and what line goes to the intake manifold. Okay, so this is going to be going to the back of the car, and the lower line is going to go into the intake manifold. So I tried to disconnect it because first I want to see if we have flow right here while the engine is running, indicating a bad purge valve. And then it did not take long for me to notice that there's a freaking bolt screwed in right here, and it's not even plugged in to the purge valve. Already, guys, already. You know what's going on here? Is this purge valve stuck open, and instead of fixing it, they decide to just jam a bolt inside of here to block it off? This is so stupid. So I reconnected everything how it's supposed to be. The purge valve seems to be working, guys. So I really don't know what's going on here because once you turn the engine off and then turn it back on, after a minute or so, the purge valve kicks in, and I could actually feel it pulsing right now. So it seems to be working. It pulls vacuum just fine from here when it is working, and when it's not working or when it's commanded off, there's no vacuum being pulled here. You know, I have no idea why this port was blocked off. Honestly, I don't know. Can't tell you, but the fact that we don't have a evap leak code, we only had a code for the evap purge flow monitor, which, you get what I'm saying? So I don't think I'm even going to bother doing the smoke test on this lady and charging this lady for this type of labor, because obviously we got to figure out what's going on with this first and make sure all of this is good. So what I'm going to do now is just leave all this stuff connected how it's supposed to be. I'm going to clear the check engine light, tell the owner to drive it around. When the check engine light comes back, if the check engine light comes back, bring it back and we'll figure things out from there. All right, so all the tires had about 15 to 20 psi in them, so I went ahead and fixed that. And one big issue I'm noticing is we have a leaking brake caliper. You can see how everything down here is wet, so that is a major issue. So I'll let the owner know about it, and she should be more concerned about that than a evap code. So that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and park it out. You know what, I'll take it out for a test drive. Let's see if there's any bad wheel bearings or something. Never know. So I've only made it to the corner, and this car's already really sketchy to drive. It just doesn't feel right. You hold the steering wheel straight, but the car just wants to go all over the road. And you know what, when she first bought this car a few months ago, she did bring this up. She said it feels weird while driving. I guess she's just gotten used to it. This is scary. Like, I'm doing like 20 and this thing just feels like it's just wavy all over the road. I can't imagine getting on the expressway with this thing. This I have no idea what's going on. I did check the front end, like the tie rods. I didn't feel anything loose. I didn't feel any loose wheel bearings. I'm not hearing anything. But yeah, I mean, look at all this play in the steering wheel, and the car's not even doing anything. Straight down the road, okay? And yet look at me shaking the steering wheel back and forth. So that gives you some sort of idea. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not touching this. This thing should have went to a shop a long time ago, maybe to a wheel alignment shop, and maybe they could pinpoint what's going on. Like, yeah, all of this like does nothing, guys. The car just goes straight. You know, even from doing this, that's crazy. Well, like I said, I don't hear any wheel bearing noise, so I'm just gonna go ahead and park it. She could come pick it up, and let me know if that check engine light comes back for a evap leak.